Welcome to our Safe Sanctuaries policy updates from the Hampden Highlands United Methodist Church. This is from our June 8th, 2025 training. Here's our mission statement. Our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ. In alignment with this mission, our congregation is committed to the physical, emotional, and spiritual safety of all who participate in our ministries, especially our children. Those are our folks who are 12 and under, our youth who are 13 to 17, and our vulnerable adults, 18 and older, who need our help. And our biblical basis is this: but Jesus called them to him and said, "Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these." Luke 18:16 from the NIV Bible. So, Hampden Highlands United Methodist Church recognizes its responsibility to provide a safe environment where everyone can experience the love of Christ. Our policy is designed to reduce any risk of harm and ensure that all of our ministries and activities are conducted safely. This policy outlines the church's procedures for screening, supervision, social media engagement, and responding to concerns or allegations of abuse, fostering an environment of accountability and transparency. Our commitment is this: we commit to protecting children, youth, and vulnerable adults from all forms of abuse, albeit physical, emotional, sexual, or happening online. We commit to implementing clear operational procedures for staff and volunteers to ensure safety. And we commit to providing training and ongoing education for our staff and volunteers on abuse and prevention, mandatory reporting, and responsible use of digital communications for social media. We'll follow these procedures, keeping our children, youth, and adults safe together. A minimum of 2 unrelated adults will be present during all activities involving children, youth, or vulnerable adults. There'd be a floater adult volunteer to count towards that second adult present when we can't have 2 adults in the room at one time, as long as no singular adult is alone with a singular child, so that the ratios described below are followed at all times. We'll go over that in a minute. But children and youth should not be on their own unsupervised in the building at any time or on church grounds, even if we're outside. Volunteers supervising children or youth must be at least 5 years older than the individuals they're supervising, or have an older adult present. So if a teenager is helping out in the nursery, they shouldn't be watching over somebody in the nursery unless they're at least 5 years older than that friend. Similarly, in youth group, for example, like a 15-year-old shouldn't be being supervised by a 19-year-old or something like that. Number 4 says one-on-one interactions between a child, youth, or vulnerable adult and a non-parent adult are prohibited unless conducted in a public or visible space. Teacher to child ratio should be followed for all age groups. So here are the ratios. When multiple age groups gather together, the lowest ratio should be followed. The teacher to child ratio for different age groups are as follows. So in nursery, which is birth to 2-year-olds, typically, sometimes 3-year-olds, we should have a 1 adult to 3 children ratio. But we try to always keep 2 adults in the nursery, or 1 adult and 1 floater if we can't come up with a second adult, but we always try to keep 2 adults if possible. For the pre-K kinder class, 1 adult to 3 children. Elementary, which is 1st to 4th grades, we have 1 adult to 5 children. Middle school, which is 5th grade to 8th grade, 1 adult to 6 children. And then high school, which is 9th grade to 12th grade, which is more our youth group, is 1 adult to 8 children. Our policy continued. Written parental guardian consent is required for off-site or overnight church-sponsored events, and all adult volunteers or staff transporting children or youth should have a valid driver's license and up-to-date vehicle insurance, and we want to keep a copy of that on file at the church during that time, as well as the parental consent. We want that in writing, I should say. Screening, recruitment, and training of staff and volunteers. That's the next step. All staff and volunteers who work with children, youth, and vulnerable adults must undergo background checks through trusted employee or something similar, but that's what we use, at the discretion of the SPRC or church council. The volunteer will be required to consent to a background check via email by trusted employee or similar service. And this is very fast, so when you agree to this, you'll get an email from trusted employee. You have 24 hours to respond to that, so make sure you do that quickly. After potential staff or volunteers consent to the background check, they will perform the check. The parish administrator will assist in making the requests. However, results will be sent directly to the pastor, the chair of the staff parish relations committee, or an authorized representative if that person's not around. The information will then be made available to any additional personnel authorized to handle those background checks. Payments for the background checks will be made by Hampden Highlands. 3. The New England Conference of the UMC is responsible for all pastoral appointment background checks, and 4 background checks are confidential. They'll be reviewed only by the pastor and the chair of the staff parish relations committee, that's SPRC, or whoever is authorized as their representative if they're not around. All background check records will be securely stored for a minimum of 5 years and must be renewed every 5 years for active staff and volunteers. 6. Staff and volunteers will receive training on recognizing abuse, understanding, reporting responsibilities, and safe digital communication practices. All right, the next piece is social media and digital communication policy. Hampden Highlands UMC acknowledges that social media and digital communications are a vital part of ministry today. So to ensure the safety of all participants, especially children, youth, and vulnerable adults, the following guidelines will be followed. 1. Transparency. Public group messages are encouraged. So typically if we send something out to someone, or if a child reaches out, we just tag the parent when we respond. It's usually the best way to do that. Parental involvement. Inform parents and acquire consent before communicating online. 3. Always use age-appropriate content. 4. Photos and videos. Written consent from a parent or guardian is required before sharing images or videos of children or youth online. Images or videos of children and youth will not be shared on personal social media accounts by staff or volunteers. It always goes on the church's account, and we don't use names when we do that. Social media groups. If a social media group is created for church-related purposes, like our youth group page, it must have at least 2 adult administrators and should be monitored regularly for appropriate content. Virtual meetings. Virtual meetings with children or youth, like on Zoom or Google Meets, must include at least 2 unrelated adult supervisors, and parent guardians must be informed and have the option to join. Consequences of violations. Any violation of these social media and digital communication guidelines will result in an immediate review by the pastor, the chair of the SPRC, and/or their authorized representative. Serious violations, especially those involving inappropriate communication with children, youth, or vulnerable adults, may result in the removal from church-related responsibilities and will be reported to law enforcement if necessary. Site considerations and liability. The Board of Trustees will annually review the church's liability insurance to ensure adequate coverage for any abuse-related incidents involving children, youth, or vulnerable adults. Trustees will report any insurance or safety concerns to the pastor and the chair of the church council. Reporting and responding to abuse concerns procedures. All adult members of the staff at HHUMC and other adults participating in the programs at Hampden Highlands are encouraged to be sensitive to the potential or of abuse of children, youth, and vulnerable adults. Activities they observe that appear to be inappropriate or dangerous should be reported immediately to the pastor, to the director of Christian formation, to chairs of SPRC, or an SPRC representative who is authorized to handle abuse incidents. Hampden Highlands will be supportive of individuals who, in good faith, make reports of actual or suspected cases of abuse. Allegations of abuse may be made in a number of ways, including but not limited to verbally in person, or through a telephone call, or in writing, through a hard copy, or electronically, like through an email or a text. Every allegation will be taken seriously. If a child, youth, or vulnerable adult communicates an allegation of abuse, he or she will be listened to, will be respected, and will be assured that the disclosure is taken seriously. If the allegation is secondhand, the person receiving the allegation will try to be determined who has direct knowledge of the alleged conduct or incident for further review and or action. The safety and security of the child or vulnerable adult is the primary concern and must be safeguarded before the person accused of abuse is contacted. Promptly after a concern has been raised or after a disclosure has been made, the pastor, SPRC chair, or designated SPRC representative will be contacted. If the pastor is the accused, the chair of the SPRC will be contacted. Either the pastor or the chair of the SPRC will immediately contact the parents or the guardian of the child, youth, or vulnerable adult. Preferred method of contact would be by telephone or in person, but with other means utilized if necessary. Steps will be taken to assure the safety of the child, youth, or vulnerable adult until the parent or guardian arrives. The person reporting the incident to the pastor, SPRC chair, or designated representative will document in writing all known facts and circumstances and will also make a report that documents all the steps taken in the course of handling the reported incident on the form, Report of Suspected Incidents of Abuse. The pastor or SPRC chair will complete the form and keep it on file. If the pastor is accused, the form will be presented to the chair of the SPRC and district superintendent. Copies of the form Report of Suspected Incidents of Abuse are located in the church office. If a child or youth is involved in a criminal abuse or neglect, if this is suspected, the pastor or chair of SPRC will promptly call local law enforcement officials and or the Maine Department of Human Services Child Abuse and Neglect Report line, which you can find here. If a vulnerable adult is involved in criminal abuse or neglect, the pastor or chair of SPRC will promptly call local law enforcement officials or the Maine Department of Health and Human Services for the Elderly and Adult Abuse and Neglect Report line, which is found here. Although we do also want to give everyone the opportunity who volunteers at church, especially those who teach Sunday school and work in the nursery, who are working closely with kids, to become a mandated reporter. And Kalina and I and Pastor Spencer are mandated reporters. So, and any one of us who are teachers are also mandated reporters. So you can always reach out to us and we will report anything that you feel needs to be reported. But the more of us that there are within the church, the better, of course. And we do have a link to that training, which is right online if anyone needs that. Law enforcement and or DHS protective personnel will handle the investigation. They do all of that you would just make the call, or you would let us know and we would make the call with the details that you give us. Hampden Highlands and its staff will cooperate fully with law enforcement officials and DHHS during their investigations. The accused will be treated with dignity, but will be immediately removed from further involvement with children, youth, or vulnerable adults. The pastor, SPRC chair, or a designated SPRC representative will notify the accused. Reinstatement will be at the discretion of the pastor, SPRC chair, and or designated SPRC representative, with the exception of the parents or guardians and those to whom required reports are made. As described above or on the last slide, confidentiality of all persons involved will be safeguarded to the extent legally allowed and appropriate. A brief statement will be made to the congregation as deemed appropriate by the pastor or designated spokesperson without providing unnecessary details. A spokesperson, either the district superintendent, the pastor, or the chair of the SPRC, will be designated as the sole contact to respond to any news media inquiries and contacts after receiving direction from the district conference. If the incident does not require legal intervention from law enforcement or protective services, Hampden Highlands will still follow the New England Conference of the United Methodist Church policies. Hampden Highlands follows all reporting guidelines of the New England Conference of the United Methodist Church. So in conclusion, Hampden Highlands United Methodist Church is committed to maintaining a safe and nurturing environment where all participants, especially children, youth, and vulnerable adults, are protected, and our commitment to safe sanctuaries reflects our dedication to living out the love and care of Jesus Christ. So we hope that you can use this training as you go forward with all of the exciting activities that we have going on this summer and in the following school year. And good luck, and thank you.